Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're all looking forward to the President's last State of the Union. What I'd like to hear him say is, what is the plan specifically to get rid of ISIL? Some of us had a chance to meet with King Abdullah earlier today, and I think there's a good deal of confusion about whether there is a plan to get rid of ISIL and whether or not the United States is going to step up and play the kind of leadership role that is necessary. Tonight we expect the President to try to paint a cheerful picture that the American people do not have in mind when thinking of their country at this particular moment. To underscore the devastation the Obama administration has created in my state, my guest tonight will be an unemployed coal miner from Pikeville, Kentucky, who lost his job as a result of the war on coal, and he'll have an opportunity to listen up close to the President of the United States, who cost him his job.
So the President seems to be oblivious to the public opinion polling that demonstrate that about 70% of the American people think the country's heading in the wrong direction. And what I'd like to hear him say tonight is what he's learned from his first 7 years in office about working together on a bipartisan basis to actually build consensus to pass durable public policy solutions that benefit the American people, rather than relying on executive orders that get enjoined in federal court or things that won't survive his presidency, so-called Pyrrhic type victories. But I think every time the President has been challenged in recent years about political losses resulting from bad policy choices, he tends to write it off as a matter of messaging. But here was a very telling statistic that I saw this morning in the Wall Street Journal. Since President Obama has been in office, Democrats have lost 13 members of the United States Senate. They've lost 69 members of the House of Representatives. They've lost 11 governorships, and they've lost to Republicans the majority status in their state legislatures. To me, that speaks volumes about the American people's opinion of the policies under this president. So it's not too late for him to work with us to do things that really matter on a bipartisan basis, and I hope that's one of the things he'll talk about this evening.
Well, this is actually kind of an exciting State of the Union because it's the President's last State of the Union, finally. But as has already been pointed out, we expect him to present what we believe is a very distorted view of reality, and certainly a reality that's very different than the one experienced by the American people. The President's going to take credit for what he perceives to be his accomplishments, but if you look at what's going on both here at home and around the world, global unrest is on the increase, wages in this country are stagnant, millions of Americans have dropped out of the labor force, and that really is the President's legacy. We have believed for some time that there's a different direction for this country that creates more economic opportunity and an opportunity for upward mobility for American families, and that the right kind of policies can help make that possible for people across this country. So I hope in the President's last year that he will decide to work with us to change the direction of this country, and certainly to change the view of the American people, which clearly, with 68 of them believing the country is headed in the wrong direction, they certainly have made up their minds about this President's policies. But it's never too late to do the right thing. We have a year left in this administration. Whether or not the President decides to join us to work on economic growth and innovation and jobs and national security for this country, we're going to continue to do, as we have this last year, those things that are good for the American people.
In the run-up to the State of the Union tonight, the President had a video, and on the video he said he wanted to talk about things that unite us. Well, if he does that, this would be the first time in 7 years of the State of the Union that he's actually done that, because this President has been very divisive, very polarizing on issues of health care, the environment, on energy, on taxes, and certainly on national security. So the President may want to talk about his legacy in the way he sees it. I think for most Americans, we're looking at a legacy of a very fragile economy, a world that is less safe and less secure than it was when he came into office, and 70% of Americans thinking the country is heading in the wrong direction. Republicans are going to continue to offer positive solutions, opposite of what the president has been doing with a government that is a big government, expensive, expansive. We're going to come up with positive, conservative solutions and keep talking about them throughout the year. Things that will actually grow jobs, that will help us develop a strong, healthy economy, and will put America back as the most powerful and respected nation on the earth.
Certainly, a lot of the speculation on the speech tonight is it's going to be the start of the president's victory lap. I think the victory lap is going to ring pretty hollow, with so many Americans feeling like they've been left behind and they're hurt economically. So many Americans who don't feel secure in their daily lives. Regulators out of control, regulations that don't make sense, and more threats from more directions than ever before. My prediction would be that the victory lap is going to be a pretty bumpy ride.
Let me just underscore some of the things that Senator Cornyn was mentioning about public opinion and about the politics. It is true that a new poll found that 70% of Americans believe this country is headed in the wrong direction. It also bears mentioning that 73% of those polled said the next president should take an approach different from Mr. Obama. Now, Senator Cornyn is also right to point out the abysmal political record of the president's own party during his stewardship, the number of Democratic senators who've been defeated, the gains of Republicans in governorships, in state legislatures, in the House of Representatives. These are political realities. I think we can also say that tonight is a constitutional event envisioned by the founders, and we should approach it as Americans. I think it's fair to say that all of us, my colleagues standing behind me and my Republican colleagues, wish the president had done better by the American people during his stewardship. We wish the economy weren't at a slow snail's pace of 2%, not ever reaching growth rate of 3%, the slowest recovery ever in the history of recessions. We wish the world were not aflame. We wish the president had not abandoned his leadership role in the world. Regrettably, sadly, those are the facts, and Republicans stand ready to move this country in a different direction.
Leader McConnell, the House is going to vote on North Korea, expanded North Korea sanctions today. Are the plans in the Senate for something on North Korea?
Yeah, I met today with Chairman Corker and Senator Cory Gardner, and Senator Gardner's been working on a North Korea sanctions bill. We anticipate it'll come out of the Foreign Relations Committee very soon, and I intend to schedule floor time on it shortly.
Some of your colleagues alluded to possible bipartisan legislation this year. What, in your view, is the single most important accomplishment Congress can do in 2017, given the realities of divided
Yeah.
calendar?
Well, I don't think that just because we have an election that's an excuse for not accomplishing anything. And if you look around at what needs to be done that has the potential to have significant bipartisan support, it would be the appropriation bills. Everybody is saying, even though the Democrats were the reasons that we ended up with an omnibus, everybody's saying they don't like an omnibus. We've already agreed to what we're going to spend next year, and it's my plan to provide enough floor time to move each of the appropriation bills, and the Democrats are saying, at least publicly, they think that's a good idea. If we were able to do that, it would be the first time since 1994. So we do intend to give that a lot of floor time and priority, and we'll see if we can accomplish it.
Senator McConnell, how do you think that one of the things is we expect the president may say something about Guantanamo this evening, and you have sort of led one of the leaders against that effort to close Gitmo from the very beginning. Do you think that you'll be able to succeed in preventing President Obama from closing Gitmo before he leaves office?
Well, I sure hope so. Guantanamo ought to stay open. It's the perfect place for terrorists. The president likes to kill terrorists, and I think that's great. I'm all for killing terrorists. But even more important is to capture terrorists and interrogate them and try to find out what they know. and the president doesn't seem to be very interested in interrogation. So I'm a supporter of Gitmo. I think it ought to stay open. I think we ought to add more terrorists to it, and I think we ought to interrogate them there. And if it is concluded that they should be tried by military commissions. The courtrooms are down at Guantanamo, not mainstreamed into an Article III court here in the United States, read their rights, and after which a lawyer obviously is going to tell them not to say anything. So I'm a big fan of using Gitmo the way it has been used, and I think hopefully he will fail in his effort to completely remove all of these bad guys from Guantanamo. Yeah. Well, we're certainly going to be looking at Iran, and Chairman Corker and his team over at Foreign Relations are probably going to be giving us further advice about how to deal with the obvious rogue regime with which we have this outrageous deal that they don't intend to comply with. And so I think Iran is going to be an ongoing issue. I mean, look at what's happened in the wake of the Iran deal. A total and obvious and open split between the Sunni world and the Shia world. I go back to what Jimmy Carter said at the beginning of the summer when I asked about the president's foreign policy. He said he couldn't think of a single place in the world where we were in better shape now than we were when President Obama came to office. There's so many problems in so many places. The next president's really going to have his hands full. Thank you.